Absolutely zero hate to this commenter, but I just want to remind you that Aaron just reads other people's headlines. It's always really good to go actually see what the actual journalist who reported on this issue has to say, rather than accepting what Aaron says in 61 seconds of a highly viral and monetizable video. Especially content that is reported in a way that is meant to get your anxiety up. Breaking news, really important news right now. No hate to Aaron either, but a lot of his reporting, reading the headlines, reminds me of when you see headline news where it says like a study says, and then the headline actually doesn't talk about what the study says at all. It's something that freaks a lot of people out. But if you go look at what the research is, you go look at what the scientists were actually examining and read the study itself, it's a totally different story. It's really good to go back and check the source. So here in particular, JD Vance is hosting Charlie Kirk's podcast, which I think is a real stupid fucking idea because JD Vance has no charisma whatsoever. He can't take over for Charlie Kirk. I think right now people are tuning in to watch it because JD Vance is a novelty, but that man, y'all, I'm sorry. Just like JD Vance, y'all, he can't, no, I'm sorry. He cannot capture the attention of millions of people every week. No, it's not going to be sustained. Anyway, so, he did say on the podcast, there was this website, this is what I'm referring to here. There's this website that went up a couple of days ago, basically trying to dox anybody, report their employer, their address, personal information, if they didn't show over the top grief over Charlie Kirk's death. It wasn't a website being like, we're going to list people who are advocating for violence or are like, yay, I'm glad Charlie's dead. It's just people who weren't sad enough, I guess. And they got 30,000 submissions very quickly and published a number of those names and accounts. And that's a federal crime, y'all. And it's a crime in most states in the United States. Doxing is a crime. So there was very quickly a campaign organized to contact the hosts of that website, Squarespace and Namecheap, I believe, and be like, hey, you are complicit in breaking federal law if you are allowing this website to exist, if you are continuing to host this website. So it got taken down very quickly. And I had people in my comments say, oh no, other websites are going to pop up. Sure, okay, I'm sure there are. Those companies are also exposing themselves to litigation, and they are also exposing themselves to criminal investigation by hosting any website that doxes people. 30,000 people? Okay, however many names got published on that website, they can now sue the shit out of Squarespace and Namecheap and the people who put that website up. And doxing people and threatening people is a federal crime, and it is a state crime in most states. That is the reality of the situation. So the fact that JD Vance got up here today and said, if someone says that they are celebrating Charlie's murder, call them out. Hell, call their employer. We don't believe in political violence, but we do believe in civility, and there is no civility in the celebration of political assassination. You think there's civility in trying to get people fired from their job, potentially lose their home and not be able to feed their children because they're exercising their right to protected speech? How's that civil, JD Couchfucker Vance? That's the whole point of the First Amendment. Our right to free speech is not going to be silenced by pearl clutchers demanding politeness and civility. I didn't celebrate Charlie Kirk's murder. All I said was that it's okay if you have mixed feelings about it. It's okay if you are relieved that somebody who is actively causing you harm is no longer able to do so. It's okay if you feel complicated emotions after somebody dies. That doesn't make you a bad person. And for that, I got death threats. Very graphic death threats. I mean, the guy who did it used his legal name, and then it was pretty easy to find out a whole lot about him, and I gave all that information to the FBI because it's a crime to, 1, dox people, and 2, commit cyber threats. It is a crime. If somebody does that to you, go to ic3.gov. Just because JD Vance said it on his podcast that people should get fired if somebody was celebrating Charlie's murder, these are the same people who celebrated George Floyd's murder. These are the same people who celebrated Kyle Rittenhouse when he killed people. These are the people who did dances in the streets and made all kinds of social media content delighting over Joe Biden getting diagnosed with cancer. And again, we don't have to talk about the hypocrisy of MAGA because of course, that's expected. These are the people who didn't even acknowledge the assassination of an elected official, Melissa Hortman, and her husband. Donald Trump got asked why he didn't put the flag at half-mast, even though he did for a podcaster. He didn't put it at half-mast for an elected official who was assassinated, but he did for a podcaster who was killed by a lone wolf. And he said, well, Tim Walz didn't ask me to. Anyway, my point here is, again, no hate to this lovely person who commented. Please don't let these folks who just read the headlines and, you're deprived of any context or any details when you hear their 61-second video. It's just long enough to get you whipped up into anxiety and for them to monetize it, but it doesn't actually discuss what's happening and frame it in a way that helps you create an appropriate response. We got to look at the details. Yeah, JD Vance said that you should call their employer. And we know that MAGA wants to use this to threaten and intimidate people, to chill dissent against the regime, to get you to voluntarily give up your First Amendment rights and go hide and not fight against fascism. That's not fucking gonna work on us. But also, just because JD Vance said it in a podcast, that doesn't mean that it's law, and it doesn't mean that these websites are going to proliferate and that this is acceptable and suddenly now legal. It's not legal. I also want to point out here real quick at the end, I just hope our courts don't fail us here. Our courts are overwhelmingly upholding the rule of law. It's just the uber conservative 6 on the Supreme Court who are absolutely betraying the Constitution and the American people to advance their Christo-fascist agenda. They are letting Donald Trump do dictator shit in this country. And I want to encourage everybody, if you don't subscribe to Talking Feds with Harry Litman, he's the attorney who quit his job at the beginning of the year at the Washington Post, saying he would not be complicit in supporting Jeff Bezos' support for the regime. He felt that it was compromising the journalistic integrity of the publication, and he left. I have tremendous respect for Harry, who is a former litigator and a very qualified attorney who gives really good analysis. He's been talking a lot about how lower courts are pushing back against the Supreme Court, how lower courts are, I don't want to say rebelling at this point in time, but there absolutely is a big conflict between the uber conservative 6 on SCOTUS and literally everybody else in the judicial system. And I think that is going to be developing very quickly here, and we'll see where it leads. So I know that the uber conservative 6 on SCOTUS have been using the shadow docket to push through Trump's authoritarian agenda, but the lower courts are not having it. They're very frustrated, and we are seeing stronger and stronger pushback from the lower courts, and I think that that is going to be something that develops. So I have not totally lost faith in the justice system yet. It is good to remember that even if the courts do fail us, ultimately it's us, the American people, who get to save ourselves. That's why it's so important that we all organize, we all plug in to grassroots resistance movements in our area. It's so important that we build that power, because there are so many more of us than there are of crazy, angry MAGA who want to hurt their fellow Americans, want to hurt their family members, their neighbors. There's so many more of us, and we get our protection and our power, and we advance our cause to restore our democracy when we work together, when we join together, and we engage in the really good sustained work of resistance. It's more important than ever after this week that we get to work doing the things that are going to stop the fascists and help us restore a stable government in the United States. And then we get to create something better. Then we don't have to stop with just trying to go back to we can't go back to where we were. We get to create something better after this.